let me get you to Dan Byer. He's got some breaking news for us in the world of sports. Dan, what's new?
Breaking news from Fox Sports.
Doug, a report from ESPN's Don Van Natta Jr. says that Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred is removing Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe Jackson, and others from Major League Baseball's permanent ineligible list. That would make Rose and Jackson eligible to be enshrined into the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Good. Let's have this discussion. That is the most cowardly crap I've ever heard of in my life. And obviously, some of this stems from the pressure you're getting from the President of the United States. Pete Rose was a horrible human being. That shouldn't keep him from being in the Baseball Hall of Fame. What should is that people who actually paid attention to the Dowd report will tell you that Pete Rose, one, has never come clean about his gambling on baseball. Two, when he initially began gambling on baseball, he was a player coach. And three, please stop the insane, stupid, myopic, I love Pete Rose argument that he only bet on his team to win. Because if you only bet on your team to win, but you don't bet on your team every day, what does it tell the people who you call in as a bookie is going to happen on those other days? He violated one of the core laws of all sports, specifically baseball, which is you bet on the sport. You bet on the sport. So, again, I understand you're like, well, he died now. What does it matter? It's symbolic. And again, Pete Rose, just a terrible person. Terrible person. Great ball player. Okay, great ball player. But this is like somebody dies who had a perfect score on the SAT. They cheated on the SAT, and then they die like, yeah, you know what? We should let him into Harvard after all. Like, no, it's posthumously. It doesn't really mean anything. It does mean something. It does. It absolutely means something. No, Pete Rose, you don't get into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. And all the political pressure can mean whatever it wants to mean. Baseball, have some balls. Just have any. You already let steroid guys in there. Okay, at least you have enough to keep the guys, Roger Clemens, Barry Bonds, out. Great. Mark McGwire, not in. Great. Sammy Sosa shouldn't be in. Great. Okay, there's other guys that we know. Pudge Rodriguez. Okay, not a secret. There are others that most people suspect, like a Mike Piazza. Okay, you felt like there wasn't any proof. I don't know what you can do except for ask any of their contemporaries. There is, by the way, a way in which you can prove a guy did or did not use steroids if you want to be in the Hall of Fame. Before every season, Major League Baseball players have to take a physical. That physical, they take blood, they take urine. Why? Because your contract has to be insured. In order for it to be insured, they have to run it through a series of tests. Those tests and what they found still exist. And for me, if you want to prove that you weren't on steroids, all you got to do is say, hey, listen, the Hall of Fame Selection Committee can see my tests before any season they want, and it'll show that I wasn't on steroids. They won't do it, and they'll cite privacy laws. But the reality is, the only thing they're protecting themselves from is testing positive for steroids. Anyway, Pete Rose does not belong in the Hall of Fame. Does not belong in my opinion. Yes, Dan Byer.
Doug, just some clarity on this ruling from Commissioner Rob Manfred. Manfred has ruled that any player deceased that is on the permanently ineligible list will become eligible for Hall of Fame consideration. The reason why I think that this point is important, I think others as well, is there are people who are saying, well, great, now that Pete Rose has passed, now he can go into the Hall of Fame. That is not what Manfred has ruled. Manfred has stated that once the person's life is over, that ends the ban. So if Pete Rose were alive today, he would still be banned from going into the Hall of Fame and still be on the permanently ineligible list. The Hall of Fame has just released a statement saying that Major League Baseball's decision to remove deceased individuals from the permanently ineligible list will allow for the Hall of Fame candidacy of such individuals to be considered. The Historical Overview Committee will develop the ballot of 8 names for the Classic Baseball Era Committee, which evaluates candidates who made their greatest impact on the game prior to 1980, to vote when it next meets in December of 2027.
So now what they did was they restarted the same fight, right? It's going to be on a different committee, a different way of doing it. And I get it. You're like, well, it's a lifetime ban. He died. Lifetime ban should be over. Like, just, well, what is the point? So that person doesn't get a chance to experience being in the Hall of Fame, but their legacy does?
I think, and this is just a guess, and just to also clarify, and then I'll make my point. This doesn't mean Pete Rose is going into the Hall of Fame. It only means that he can be up for discussion along with Shoeless Joe Jackson in December of 2027. There is the Classic Baseball Era Committee. It's how Fred McGriff got in, but it's not every year that you vote for a player from a previous era to get in. There's a rotating schedule of it. So the next time that this group of players is up for possible enshrinement or induction will not be decided until December of 2027, which would make it the class of 2028. And with that being said, they still would have to be voted in, Doug. So the thought process, if there are voters who feel the way that you do, they do not have to vote Pete Rose or Shoeless Joe Jackson into the Hall of Fame. This just opens the door for their possible induction, or the possibility that they are voted in. But the votes could also speak for themselves in putting them in or not.
No, I listen, I get it. You still have to get the votes. This thing had been decided, and the further we get away from it, the less likely it is that voters have read the Dowd report or have any true sense of, and our sensibilities have kind of changed. Like, well, like, what is the real big deal? People gamble all the time now. They do on the phone. Like, no. This is a completely different deal that was going on there. This is the old call in your bookie, and the reason, by the way, that you don't allow people to bet on sports is because what happens is, no matter, I don't believe athletes should be allowed to bet on any sport. I just don't, because what happens is when you get behind, a guy comes to you and he goes, hey, well, you got a couple choices here, right? Like, you give us a finger, or you take care of us. You know, you don't have to lose. You just don't have to win by so many. You don't have to win, but you just lose by so many.
What about?
Go ahead.
What about the families? Because that's where it feels that this is being done. I mean, we have a high-profile case going on here in Southern California that I think most of the country realizes in the Menendez brothers right now and what is going on. And it seems that they have full support from their family members in them. Maybe not the best comparison, but you're wondering on, now that these players are deceased, does it do anything for the families in that point? If you were a descendant of Shoeless Joe Jackson, or if you were a relative of Pete Rose, does it change anything for you?
No, because you didn't do nothing anyway. No. Listen, I hear what you're saying, right? But I don't. That's like whitewash in comparison to the wave.
Sure,
Pete Rose has done everything the exact wrong way you're supposed to do it. He never admitted sort of fault. Remember, he used to hold autograph signing like right across the street when he's supposed to. You know, he basically was the O.J. Simpson of the "if I did it," right? That's how he would act. And not even getting into some of the other things about Pete Rose off the field, which I can't hold that against him. That has nothing to do with this. And frankly, it has nothing to do with his unbelievable drive. Like, I even think taking out Ray Flossie was a chicken crap move, right? Like, you're in an all-star game and you're going to go and dive and take out a catcher to home plate. Like, what are you doing? You are that guy. Go ahead there, J. Stu.
In his 2000 book, My Prison Without Bars, he writes, I bet on baseball in 1987 and 1988. That was my mistake, not coming clean a lot earlier. So he admitted in that book, and remember the criticism at the time is that he did it to sell books.
I believe he actually, and look, everybody is biased by knowledge of or proximity to situation or whatever. My first radio co-host when I was at ESPN, this is 2003, I think we worked together 3 or 4 years, was Chuck Wilson. And we'll try and get Chuck on. Chuck is the foremost authority on Pete Rose betting in baseball. And, I mean, he still has I think he still walks around with a copy of the Dowd Report. And when things would come out, he's like, yeah, no. I actually read the Dowd Report, and he was betting on baseball. And every piece of chum he threw out was all some sort of – it was a lot like how many of us handle things that have gone wrong in our life. We admit to whatever the lowest common number. So I will admit I'm wrong. He did admit that he bet on baseball, but I don't believe he ever admitted to betting on baseball when he was a player manager. And part of it is I don't think people remembered the fact that Pete Rose was a player manager, but he was. He was Bill Russell, only in Major League Baseball. Right? He was a player manager, which is kind of crazy if you really want to think about it, right? Like it was a 2-year period, 84 through 86. So when did he admit to betting on baseball?
2004, the book.
No, but what years did he say about baseball?
Oh, the 87-88 season.
Right. So he curiously omitted the fact that he was actually, and again, in the Dowd Report, he was betting on baseball in 84 and 85 and 86, which is when he was a player manager. So he would have direct impact on the game. Like I've never been somebody that said that Pete Rose is an idiot. He's not. Okay, but he thinks he's smarter than people going like, yeah, no, I bet on baseball as a manager. It was only for us to win. Like, yeah, if you actually read the Dowd Report, he was betting on baseball when he was a player manager, which those years do not coincide with the years he described in the book.